Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report, and today I got a fun little show. I got the latest Raiders news and rumors, and all the news and rumors that are buzzing around the Oakland Raiders right now. It's all around this guy, Antonio Brown. Now, some good news, right? So it's at least good to see Antonio Brown back at practice today in Napa, California. However, he did not practice, and he actually came to practice with a nice little beanie and not a helmet whatsoever. But as soon as the dude showed up today, the entire Hard Knocks film crew absolutely mobbed him. So I don't expect to see that on Hard Knocks episode 2, but in terms of seeing it on episode 3, I think you can almost book it. Now, the entire helmet saga has been just an absolute roller coaster. But when you go out and trade for Antonio Brown, this is something that you should expect. You're going to get drama with Antonio Brown, and from what it looks like now, Antonio Brown is going to be playing. He's going to be practicing soon. So I want to ask you guys this question, okay? We talked about it here plenty at Chat Sports. Was the AB helmet saga just a Hard Knocks ploy? Was it just to get the extra views? And maybe if somebody was sliding a little, Benjamin underneath Antonio Brown's wallet there. But was AB's helmet saga just a Hard Knocks ploy? Type Y for yes, type N for no. I tweeted out last week that, I would type my Y for yes because I think it was literally just an entire Hard Knocks ploy. All right, let's talk a little bit more about Antonio Brown. And is he going to play this Thursday in the preseason game against the Arizona Cardinals? However, I do not expect him to play. So the report is that Michael Gelkin threw out there that he is not expected to play, but that he is almost 100% with that foot injury. So Antonio Brown's agent came out and said that Antonio did in fact have frostbite. If you guys watched my show from last week, you'll know not Leslie Chow, but just Dr. Chow said that it would literally be physically impossible for Antonio Brown to have literal frostbite. He had some issues with his feet. If you guys want to get more in-depth on that injury, please go check out my video from last week. The good news here, though, there was a lot of talk about, is Antonio Brown going to play in week 1 with the helmet, with the foot? Jon Gruden said that he fully expects Antonio Brown to play week 1. Now, you're watching the Raiders Report, the most watched Raiders show on YouTube and Facebook. So what I need you guys to do is click that big red button and subscribe. Currently at 20,298. I'm trying to get to 21K by Thursday. And for those of you that might be colorblind, click the big gray button. Get the Raiders Report to 21K by Thursday because I'm going to be doing a nice little watch party. So I want you guys to come along and join me for the ride. So the Raiders, they play the Cardinals at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Join me Thursday, August 15th, Thursday, for my watch party where I'm going to sit there, I'm going to have some beers, we're going to talk, we're going to interact, and we're going to hopefully watch the Raiders dominate the Cardinals because, hey, there was this guy that I talked about a little bit this offseason. I don't know if you remember his name. I think it was Kyle Murray? No, Kyler Murray. Yes, Kyler Murray. Also, Kyler Murray made Tom dye his hair red. Go check that out at youtube.com/chatsportstv. Good time. Join me for my watch party August 15th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. All right, let's keep the show rolling here. A little more news around Derek Carr. And is our quarterback going to play Thursday against the Cardinals? This is some, good news. Gruden said that, he expects Carr to take some snaps Thursday. And I really didn't expect Carr to play against the Rams, but he should at least get some work in Game 2 against the Cardinals. So the fact that I expect him to play a few series, I wouldn't expect him to play much into the second quarter. If he goes out there on that first drive and it's like a good drive where they score a touchdown, that's probably going to be his last drive. Now, if he goes out there and struggles for one series and he struggles again, potentially, you could see Derek playing a few extra series. But the reason why I really want to see Derek out there is because the wide receivers this past week against the Rams, I thought they looked pretty good. So Keon Hatcher, a young receiver, 2 catches, 45 yards. Marcel Aitman, 1 catch for 19 yards, but went up and got a big one. J.J. Nelson showed his speed right away, 2 catches for 43 yards. Ryan Grant, 3 catches for 32 yards. Again, a new receiver. And then Keelan Doss, the UDFA, 2 catches, 9 yards, and a touchdown. I want to see how Derek can look with some of these new and young wide receivers because if Antonio Brown's going to throw drama around, I want to know that the depth around the wide receiver position is solid, and Derek needs to start working with these guys on the field. So how many series Will Derek Carr play on Thursday? 1, 2, 3. If you think he's going to play the entire game, I want to know what you're drinking, and I'll take 2 of those. So how many series will Derek Carr play on Thursday, August 15th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time? Come join my watch party because I'll be doing a live stream there of the game. You can all hang out with me. How many series for Carr on Thursday? Comment below. Now, some bad news here around Maxx Crosby because he actually does have a broken hand. So for those of you that do follow me on Twitter, I tweeted out after the preseason game versus the Rams that Crosby has a broken hand. And a bunch of you, and I'm saying like literally 30 people tweeted at me like, but Maxx Crosby tweeted out that he's all good. You can tweet out that you're all good. That doesn't mean that you don't have a broken hand. It is 100% confirmed that Crosby has a fractured hand. And Jon Gruden did say this though. Despite the fact that he has this fractured hand, the Raiders are likely going to hold him out an entire training camp and the rest of practice. Gruden did say that there is a chance for Crosby to play in the third preseason game, which is known as the dress rehearsal, versus the Packers. Between you and me, I don't really think it's a smart move. I think they should rest up Maxx Crosby. We know he's athletic. He's looked good this entire offseason. I don't really have any worries about Maxx Crosby. I would much rather have him healthy for week 1 instead of him playing in any of these preseason games. Rams, Cardinals, Packers, Seahawks. I mean, the Cardinals game, he's not going to make, obviously. The Packers game, sure, it's the dress rehearsal. And then Seahawks, that's more or less for the players who are trying to make the roster. John, Mike, hope you guys watch my show. I know some of you do once in a while. I've seen some players actually say some things about my show before. So, youtube.com/Raiders Report. John, hold out Max until week 1. So, Maxx Crosby, he has a broken hand. Probably not the worst injury out there. So, I wanted to know from you guys, what's the worst injury you've ever experienced? I want you to comment below. If you're watching us on YouTube, if you're watching us on Facebook, I'd like to hear it. So for me, I tore my ACL my senior year in high school, a horrible, horrible injury. Also, when I was a pitcher at college, I remember throwing a fastball, and I instantly ate it in my face, and it resulted in about 21 stitches, and that was probably more of a painful surgery. So what's the worst injury you've ever experienced? I'm very, very interested to see what you guys come up with. All right, Nevin Lawson talk here. Last week I asked, should the Raiders cut Nevin Lawson? Because we know that he's dealing with that, 4-game suspension, and the Raiders, they signed him this offseason, but he only has $750,000 guaranteed. But in terms of reports, Nevin Lawson has looked great all offseason. He played well against the Rams. He had 3 tackles against the Rams this past preseason game. But today, he made an absolutely insane interception off Carr. He tipped it in the air, caught it, and then did a barrel roll into the end zone, which is kind of funny because that's Nevin Lawson's. Well, Nevin Lawson has never intercepted anyone in his entire career. But I want to talk about now the chances of Nevin Lawson actually being a reliable player for this Raiders team. We know that Garyon Conley has high upside. Daryl Worley, Carl Joseph, Jonathan Abram, LaMarcus Joyner. But where does Lawson fit onto this team? He has experience. We know that he has experience with the Lions. Sure, I think he, what's a good way to put it with Lawson when he played for the Lions? It was more out of necessity at times for him to play. He's a solid depth player. But when you consider the fact that he's going to miss those first 4 games, I don't know if I'm necessarily crazy about that. And if you guys are wondering why he's going to miss those first 4 games, he got suspended by the NFL for taking Osterin. He didn't know that he was taking it, so put it in his body. But I'm a believer that if you're an NFL player, you should almost always know what you're putting in and out of your body. But we're not going to have him the first 4 weeks, okay? Not having Lawson's going to hurt us a little bit. It's an NFL, it's a pass-happy league. So considering that, I would, expect that the Raiders want to potentially, that's a good way to put it, get a lot of work out of some of those younger players. So these are going to be the first 4 games that Nevin Lawson misses. Week 1 against the Broncos, week 2 against the Chiefs, at the Vikings, and at the Colts. That's a tough start to the season. So the fact that they're not going to have them, it's one of those things for me. They got to win against the Broncos. You got to win against the Chiefs. Vikings, Colts. But here's the thing. I know that he's not playing, but I'm going to bet on all 4 of those games this year with my bookie. And I want you guys to do it too. So go to chatsports.com/Raiders. Use my promo code GORaiders for 100% deposit bonus. If you guys put down $100, you're going to get $100 for free. Put down $200, $200 for free. Put down $300, $300 for free. Hashtag math. My bookie has hooked up the Raiders Report with the best promo code out there, chatsports.com/Raiders. And for any of you guys out there that get started with my bookie, I can also get you guys hooked up with some face shields here from Raider Nation Store. Just slide in my DMs. All right, let's keep the show moving here. Will the Raiders cut Nevin Lawson? I asked it last week, so I'm going to ask you guys again. Will the Raiders cut Nevin Lawson? I want you to type yes. I want you to type no. If you're going to type yes, give me a reason why you think they are going to cut him. If you're going to type no, tell me why the Raiders should ultimately keep Nevin Lawson on the team. All right, let's talk about Jordan Devey here, okay? Working as the right guard today, which I think is an important note because we know Gabe Jackson, he's out 6 to 8 weeks. Also, Richie Incognito, he is suspended those first 2 weeks because of the suspension. When I look at the Raiders' offensive line in general, the guard position is the glaring need. We have Jonathan Cooper, who we got this offseason. I like Lester Cotton, but it's interesting to me that they're moving Devey, who's right now currently the backup center to Hudson, at that right guard position over Denver Kirkland. The Raiders, if they can get by these first 2 weeks without Incognito and out Gabe Jackson, and to be honest with you guys, I expect Gabe Jackson to not return until week 7. I know that he's supposed to be out 6 to 8 weeks, but then I don't really want to rush back one of our better guards. I don't want to rush him back in the fear that he's not 100% healthy, and the fact that the Raiders then have that week 6 bye. I would say let's take it easy on Gabe Jackson. He'll probably come back week 7. So last season, the Raiders were 5th in the NFL with most sacks allowed. They allowed 52 sacks. And if we want to be able to keep the season rolling this year on a positive note, and if you want to see the 2015-2016 version of Derek Carr, you need to keep him off his back. So how many sacks will the Raiders allow this season? If you're watching us on YouTube, which I know a bunch of you are, if you're watching us on Facebook, comment below. Hopefully we have less than 52 sacks. I'm going to say the Raiders are going to give up somewhere around like 31 sacks this year. It's normally around the league average. So how many sacks will the Raiders allow this season? Let's talk about our fullback, Keith Smith, because he returned to practice today. And when I first saw this report, I was actually kind of surprised. I really did not expect Keith Smith to come back from that knee injury as soon as he did. Once he passed his physical, he was like, I need to get back on the field. And the reason why Keith Smith needs to get back on that field, it's because Alec Ingold has been doing work during training camp, and he looked good against the Rams. Also, important to note, if Keith Smith is cut, it will save the Raiders $1.5 million. So the Raiders, they released their depth chart about a week ago, and it had Ingold already listed as the fullback 1. Now, I'll also say I think that has a little bit to do with the fact that Keith Smith was injured. But if you can tell me right now, you're either going to pay Keith Smith $1.5 million or you're going to pay Alec Ingold $505K, I'm going to keep the undrafted free rookie, Ingold, because he had 4 catches this past preseason game. Also, the fullback position last year for the Raiders was only on the field 15% of the time. I expect that number to even go down this season. So if you can tell me right now I can pay a player $505K and basically save myself $1 million in general, I'm probably going to go with the UDFA and Alec Ingold. So I would type my I for Ingold. So who will be the Raiders starting fullback? I put this one up on the community channel. So if you see it here, also get your comments and get your vote in on our community channel at youtube.com/Raiders Report. Who's going to be the Raiders starting fullback? Type I for Ingold or type S for Keith Smith. Let me see what you guys think in the comments section below. Let's talk a little bit about tight ends, because who doesn't love a good firm tight end? Now, I saw this tweet out there from Michael Gelkin, and he came out and said, it's unclear how many tight ends the Raiders are going to keep on the 53-man roster, but it looks increasingly safe to write down Darren Waller, Foster Moreau, and Derek Carr in Penn. And he notes that Carr provides versatility and continues to be featured as a core special teamer. So I wanted to show you guys here the 5 tight ends that the Raiders have on their roster. Waller, I definitely expect to make the team. Foster Moreau, Carr. Carrier was the one I was a little bit surprised on, but if the fact that he's an important special teams player, it seems like he's yes. Luke Wilson with 2 L's is a bubble player, and Paul Butler I would definitely expect for them to move on from. Now, I love Darren Waller, especially as a sleeper for fantasy football. So for everyone who's watching us out there, do you play fantasy football? Type 4 for Believe It, baby, or type 0 for Tuck Rule Tuck That. If you type 0, why? I mean, fantasy football is a lot of fun, and we can do a nice, fun league. And for those of you that type 4, I want you guys to join my Raiders Fantasy League. So this is what you got to do. Ready? DM me FF to enter my Raiders Fantasy League. So if you want to hit me up on IG or on Twitter, at Mitchell Renz 365, DM me FF to enter my Raiders Fantasy League. Raider Nation, what's going on? Is this the #1 Raiders channel on YouTube? For Chucky Heads, believe it, baby. And if you haven't already, subscribe right here. I'm giving you Chucky Heads, news, rumors, Raider Nation rumors. And look at this, I'm making your life easier. Check out my next video. Thanks for watching, and go Raiders.